Read my lips. No new taxes.
I will close Guantanamo. I will restore habeas corpus.
Guantanamo, that's easy. Close down Guantanamo, restore habeas corpus.
We're going to lead by shutting down Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus.
I intend to close Guantanamo, and I will follow through on that. Guantanamo will be closed.
That flag represents rule of law and due process, and that's why we're going to close Guantanamo and restore habeas corpus. I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank.
Let me emphasize that we anticipate this transition to take place in a matter of days and not a matter of weeks. I am less interested in passing out blame than I am in learning from and correcting these mistakes to make us safer. For ultimately, the buck stops with me. The only measure of my success as president, when people look back 5 years from now or 9 years from now, is going to be, did I get this economy fixed? I love these folks who helped get us in this mess and then suddenly say, well, this is Obama's economy. That's fine. Give it to me. My job is to solve problems, not to stand on the sidelines and carp and gripe. That I will be held accountable. I've got 4 years.
You're going to know quickly how people feel about what's happening.
That's exactly right. And if I don't have this done in 3 years, then there's going to be a one-term proposition.
When I said change we can believe in, I didn't say change we can believe in tomorrow.
You had an Arab Spring in the Middle East, and then you had the situation in Europe, and you had a tsunami in Japan. The severe storms all along the East Coast. Because we've got this big, messy, tough democracy. There are still too many Republicans in Congress who have refused to listen to the voices of reason and compromise. These are bills that Congress ran up. But, we've been a little bit lazy, I think, over the last couple.
And one of the things I think the next president has to do is to stop fanning people's fears. If we spend all our time feeding the American people fear and conflict and division, then they become fearful and conflicted and divided. And if we feed them hope and we feed them reason and tolerance, then they will become tolerant and reasonable and hopeful. And that, I think, is one of the most important things that the next president can do, is try to bring us together and stop trying to fan the flames of division that have become so standard in our politics in Washington. That's the kind of experience, by the way, that we need to put an end to.
We don't need the slash and burn, say anything, do anything politics that divides and distracts, that tears us apart instead of bringing us together. Because if you don't have any fresh ideas, then you use stale tactics to scare voters. If you don't have a record to run on, then you paint your opponent as someone people should run from. We don't mind the Republicans joining us. They can come for the ride, but they got to sit in back.
And you see folks waving tea bags around.
What I believe is that marriage is between a man and a woman.
As far as why, what in your religious faith calls you to be against gay marriage?
What I believe in my faith is that a man and a woman, when they get married, are performing something before God. I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman. Now, for me as a Christian, it's also a sacred union. God's in the mix. I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
President Obama, 24 hours after making history, he's making money.
Did he do it because he thought it was right, or did he do it for political reasons? 67% said political.
I'm a proponent of pay-as-you-go. Every dollar that I've proposed an additional cut so that it matches. And I want to go through the federal budget line by line,
page by page. Programs that don't work, we should cut. Programs that we need, we should make them work better.
And that's why today I'm pledging to cut the deficit we inherited by half by the end of my first term in office. We are going to ban all earmarks, the process by which individual members insert pet projects. By ending no-bid contracts, by eliminating wasteful spending. We can save billions of dollars by cutting private contractors and improving management and oversight of hundreds of billions of dollars that our government spends on contracts. And I'll finally end the abuse of no-bid contracts once and for all. The days of sweetheart deals for Halliburton will be over when I'm in the White House. We'll finally end the abuse of no-bid contracts once and for all. The days of sweetheart deals for Halliburton and the like will be over when I'm in the White House. The way Bush has done it over the last 8 years is to take out a credit card from the Bank of China in the name of our children, driving up our national debt from $5 trillion for the first 42 presidents. Number 43 added $4 trillion by his lonesome, so that we now have over $9 trillion of debt that we are going to have to pay back. $30,000 for every man, woman, and child. That's irresponsible. It's unpatriotic. I am absolutely confident that we can choose our own economic destiny. We can choose another 4 years with the same reckless fiscal policies that George Bush has implemented, taking our national debt from $5 trillion to over $9 trillion in the span of 8 years, mortgaging our children's future on a mountain of debt, or we can restore some fiscal responsibility in Washington. We can, yes we can.
I mean, the debt ceiling, that's a formality. Historically, this has not even been an issue. It's an unpleasant vote, but it's been a routine vote that Congress does periodically. The truth is that compared to other countries around the world, our deficit problems are completely manageable. And I could not get Republicans to go ahead and say, you're right, we're going to put country ahead of party.
The last thing we should do is raise taxes on the middle class. You will not see your taxes increase one single dime. You will not see your taxes increase a single dime. I repeat, not one single dime.
Under this mandate, the government is forcing people to spend money, fining you if you don't. How is that not a tax?
Because when I'm president, meetings where laws are written will be more open to the public, no more secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president. I'll make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure that our business is the people's business.
But these negotiations will be on C-SPAN. And so the public will be part of the conversation.
We're going to do all these negotiations on C-SPAN. So the American people will be able to watch these negotiations.
You know, I respect the fact that Senator Clinton and President Clinton attempted in '93 to get health care reform passed. But I do think that they did it in the wrong way, because it was behind closed doors and we did not enlist the American people in the process.
When there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it, so that you know what your government's doing. Let me say it as simply as I can. Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this president.
Since taking office, this has been the administration that's prosecuted more whistleblowers in 2 years than in the preceding 40 years. It meets with lobbyists across the street from the White House so they don't have to disclose they're meeting with lobbyists. And, this is true, censored nearly 200 pages of internal emails about their efforts to make government more transparent.
That means no more illegal wiretapping of American citizens. No more national security letters to spy on citizens who are not suspected of a crime. No more tracking citizens who do nothing more than protest a misguided war. No more ignoring the law when it is inconvenient.
When Congress offers you a bill, do you promise not to use presidential signage to get your way?
Yes.
I believe in the Constitution, and I will obey the Constitution of the United States. We're not going to use signing statements as a way of doing an end run around Congress. All right?
We have a responsibility to act. That's what's happened in Libya over the course of these last 6 weeks.
The biggest problems that we're facing right now have to do with George Bush trying to bring more and more power into the executive branch and not go through Congress at all. And that's what I intend to reverse when I'm President of the United States of America.
I can't wait for Congress to do its job. So where they won't act, I will. And I've told my administration, we're going to look every single day to figure out what we can do without Congress. What can we do without it?
They will not work in my White House, and they will not drown out the voices of the American people when I am president. Tell the lobbyists in Washington that their days of setting the agenda are over. They have not funded my campaign. They will not work in my White House.
Just this weekend, the New York Times published a list of names, a rather long list of names of people who are working on Obama's transition team or who have accepted jobs in his White House, who are either former lobbyists or who have close ties to lobbyists.
And that means that no matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period. No one will take it away, no matter what.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
I think it is important for us to send some price signals to change behavior. Americans like to drive their big SUVs. They like to leave all the lights on in their house. We're going to have to change our habits. If we want to do something serious about that, it's not going to be painless.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded. We can't drive our SUVs and, eat as much as we want and keep our homes on, 72 degrees at all times, and whether we're living in a desert or we're living in the tundra, and then just expect that every other country is going to say, okay, you guys go ahead and keep on using 25% of the world's energy, even though you only account for 3% of the population, and we'll be fine. Don't worry about us. That's not leadership. We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.